In the past, a lot of people have asked me if you can case swap a Dell Optiplex. In other words, transplant the Dell Optiplex components into a cool custom PC case. And I would always tell them that it wasn't really worth it. And that's because most of the time your front panel I/O, meaning the USBs on the front, and your microphone and headphone jacks wouldn't be usable after doing a case swap. And another thing, it would also introduce BIOS errors at startup that couldn't be turned off because of the proprietary nature of Dell Optiplexes. But recently I came across a set of adapters that you can buy that solve some of these issues for a few models of Dell Optiplexes. The adapters plug into the proprietary headers on the Dell Optiplex motherboards and converts them to standard front panel headers that are found in most standard PC cases. I found these front panel adapters for Dell Optiplexes on eBay. You can buy a whole kit for $24.99, and depending on the kit, this will include a power switch / power LED adapter, a diagnostic LED / hard drive LED adapter, a USB adapter, and an audio header adapter. But if you're only wanting just the adapter for the power switch, then you can spend about $12.99 and get that individually. So I've got a Dell Optiplex 3010 here and a Phanteks P300A. So let's transplant the Dell Optiplex into this new case and see how it goes. To make this case swap, you'll start by opening the Dell Optiplex and then unplugging the fan, power, and front panel connectors from the motherboard and also removing the boot drive. Next, unscrew the motherboard from the Dell Optiplex case and remove it. Next, you can remove the power supply from the Dell Optiplex by unscrewing the 4 screws from the back and then pressing down on the tab on the inside, and the power supply should slide right out. Now that the motherboard is removed, this is the point where I would suggest installing the adapters. This will give you better visibility and more room to work with. For the Dell Optiplex 3010 motherboard, the power adapter will be installed into a header on the top right of the motherboard. The HDD LED adapter will be installed into a header on the right side of the motherboard towards the bottom, and then the USB 2.0 adapter will be installed into the motherboard header that's in the bottom middle. The adapters come with instructions for how to properly install them, so look at those if there's any confusion about how to install them. Then make sure that your new case is prepped for the new motherboard by installing the standoffs in the needed spots. And also, don't forget to take the I/O shield from the Dell Optiplex before installing the motherboard, because I almost did. Next, you can put your motherboard in the new case. The case should have come with screws that fit into the provided standoffs. Secure the motherboard with the provided screws and install the power supply. Just be aware that in many cases, the PSU cables on the OEM Dell Optiplex PSU will probably not be long enough, so you may either need to use a different PSU or buy a cable extension. Once that's done, reconnect all the fan, power, front I/O, and boot drive connectors. The adapters and front panel connectors should have labels on them that will make it clear what connector needs to be plugged into which pin. So hopefully that will make it a little easier on you. And voila, now you have a cool custom RGB PC case instead of a boring old Dell Optiplex. And you'll probably be a better gamer now that your PC doesn't look like an old office PC. Oh, also, you should have front I/O that works now, so that's pretty cool. While I'm pretty excited that this is now an option for people to be able to more easily transplant a Dell Optiplex into a more modern case, I think there are a few things you should be aware if this is something that you want to try. So firstly, be aware that depending on the model of Optiplex that you have, the connectors are a little different and the headers on the motherboard are a little different. So just make sure that you're buying the correct kit, adapter kit for the Dell Optiplex that you have. Secondly, another thing to be aware of is that just make sure to do the research on your case as well. The case that I have only has a USB 3.0 connector, while the adapter kit adapts the Optiplex USB connector to a USB 2.0 header, which is different than a USB 3.0 header and connector. So keep that in mind. I know that there's a lot of cases that I've built in the past have a cable that supports both USB 2.0 and USB 3.0. So if your case has that, that's something you won't have to worry about. But like I said, in my case, the front I/O or the front USB is still not working because I don't have that. So I might have to buy another adapter if I wanted to keep the Dell Optiplex in this case, or just make sure that you buy a case that supports USB 2.0. Lastly, I already kind of mentioned this, but be aware that the OEM Dell Optiplex PSU cables are not super long. So in most cases, they probably aren't going to be long enough for you to put them in the case without buying an extra cable extension or replacing the PSU. So that's something to be aware of if you're going to attempt this. So lastly, the big question is this something that you should do? Should you transplant a Dell Optiplex into a more modern case? And if I'm being honest, I'm still a little on the fence about this. I think it's awesome that it's an option, but when I think about the actual cost of it, that's what puts me on the fence a little bit more. So the kit itself is $24.99. To buy a case, you're spending probably around $60 for a good budget case. And then on top of that, you might have to add in more adapters or a power supply depending on the case that you're using. And that amount of money that you're going to spend to just put this into a new case is kind of getting into the realm where you could make other upgrades, other performance-based upgrades that I think, at least personally, I think I'd rather have a faster computer than a better looking computer in most cases. If you're happy with the performance of your computer though, and this is kind of like one of those last things, yeah, it might be a good option. Or maybe you've been gifted a PC case by a friend that upgraded theirs or something like that. This could be a good option for you. So I'm really happy that it is an option, and I think it's awesome. But if you're going into it planning on upgrading your case to begin with, maybe look at other options as far as other things you can upgrade first before allocating that money to upgrading a case. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, and yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe.